And now welcome Gregory Schneider. Thanks so much for coming to the studio.
Well, thank you for having me.
Tell us when this adventure got started for you.
Well, it was last August. I was looking into buying my first telescope, and on one of the websites they had a banner ad saying you could win a free trip to space. So, of course, I clicked on it and submitted my name into the Space Needle's Space Race 2012 competition. And it turns out 50,000 other people did as well.
And there was a process of narrowing the number of contestants down to a more manageable number, and then there were some physical and even scientific challenges involved. Tell us a little bit about what you went through physically to win this opportunity.
Sure. So once we got to Seattle, there were 5 of us who were flown to Seattle by the Space Needle. On the very first day, they took us to a place called iFly Seattle, which is an indoor skydiving place, and they have a vertical wind tunnel. So we had to learn how to maneuver inside the wind tunnel and move forwards and back and spin in circles, up and down. And for beginners like us, they blow the wind at about 100 miles per hour. But for the more advanced people, it's more like 160 or 170, which is, I mean, it's crazy to feel that much pressure pushing you up and actually floating there.
Had you ever had an experience like that before?
No, definitely not.
Have you ever had an issue with heights in your life? Is that a problem for you?
No, not really. I feel pretty fortunate to not get total vertigo when I look down over something. I mean, sure, I feel a little nervous in my gut, like anyone does, but it's not overpowering.
Well, you were up pretty high on the final part of the challenge when you were on the Space Needle itself. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the last day when it was down to 2 of us, they had us first climb up the antenna of the Space Needle on the roof of it. So by the time you get to the top, it's about 605 feet up in the air. And you have this great view of the city, but the climb up is a little precarious as there are metal bars going up the antenna that are maybe a quarter or half-inch thick, and it was pretty cold that morning. And then the second part was climbing out onto the halo of the Space Needle, which is only 520 feet up. And we had to climb out over these slats that are about 4 or 5 inches apart. And as you're climbing out, you look down and you can see straight down, and there's just nothing there between you and falling. I mean, we had safety harnesses on our back, but that was probably the scariest part of the day. But then we got out onto the halo, and we had to walk around and answer 10 space trivia questions while managing the fear and the excitement of being up 520 feet on the edge of this building.
How'd you do on the questions?
I did really well. I got 8 out of 10 right.
Did you find yourself at any point in this experience questioning your desire to finish the challenge?
No, not at all.
You were there to win.
I was definitely there to win, and I think you learn a lot about yourself when you push yourself to the limits like that, and I definitely learned that I have a lot more strength and courage than I thought I did.
Oh. Well, let's outline the parameters of the space flight that you'll be taking. Tell us about the company that's put behind this contest and also what you can expect yourself when you finally get your chance.
Sure. So the company that's actually doing the trip is called Space Adventures, headed by a guy named Eric Anderson. And so the idea is to have an actual rocket that will launch 2 people up 62 miles into the sky, which is NASA's definition of outer space. And then you'll stay up there for about 6 minutes, and you get to release your harnesses and float around and experience zero-G and hopefully get some great photos of the experience. And then you start coming back down. And at least the test flight videos I've seen, they've actually done it so that you would land just inches from where you took off, which is pretty amazing to me, the engineering that has to go into that.
Well, while you were taking on the challenges of going into space, you were also facing the challenges of graduating from law school. Congratulations on being, as you said, a freshly minted graduate. And you met your wife here in Tucson and settled down here. So tell us about your family.
Sure. I met my wife at a restaurant called the Ventana Room. She was the chef there, and I was one of the servers. And we hit it off pretty much right away, and totally fell in love and got married a little under a year later. And so we have 2 children and a third on the way. And Emmy is 7, Jude is 3, and obviously the baby's not here yet. But
Well, at 7 years old, Emmy is obviously very aware of what's going on with you, and is she looking forward to seeing her daddy off into space?
yeah, definitely. She's very excited. She's a little bit nervous about me going up and not coming back, but I'm sure they're not going to send me up unless it's safe. And these even space accidents are very rare in terms of how often. So the likelihood of anything going wrong is pretty low.
Well, we'll be watching certainly down here when you do take your flight and following this story as it progresses. Thanks for joining us to tell us about your exciting adventure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Gregory.